Hey, you're not doing the gangster thing that we talked
Oh,
about.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, there we
Here
go.
we are.
All right. Hey guys,
Hey.
Paul Redham and Rob King here on the 25th episodes of Calls with Paul. I know I took a hiatus. I think it was last week, and the show went on, which was really wonderful. But Rob is a insurance agent, and you've probably heard me introduce him as the most passionate man in insurance. He's just so fired up about beating quotes and providing great coverage. I thought he'd be a wonderful guest. So thank you for joining
Thanks
us.
for having me.
Yeah, of course.
With Greenway Insurance.
Marquette's in the background. She can't help herself, which is good stuff because I need the help. But anyway, so Rob, talk to us about insurance and what people should look for and in their policies and
Great.
all that stuff.
Well, let's fire it up. All right.
Yeah.
So, what people should look for and with their coverages is one, you need to kind of tell your agent. If you don't have an agent, you have a 1-800 number. You really need a local person to resource and talk to, and making sure that you understand what you're buying, because it's very important that you protect your assets and your cars, make sure you have an umbrella, things like that. But what people should look for and figure out and what is and what isn't covered is by simply reading your deck page. And that's the deck page is a declaration page, which lists your coverages, how much the home is insured for, what your automobiles are insured for, and go down the list. And you want to look for things like water coverage and foundation water damage, seepage and leakage, and things like that. So
I get real excited about that seepage and leakage.
Yes, you do.
And sometimes those things don't read right inside the policy, so you got to be really careful reader, or have somebody you trust,
or have somebody you trust.
We have a camera down. Here, spin that around. So.
All right. So and again, that goes back to having a local agent, somebody who's in the neighborhood, and not somebody who's sitting in California in a call center quoting your stuff out. It's and that's what's really important. And asking questions, ask as many questions as you can.
Yeah, and probably have a relationship with them. One of the nice things that when we hand out referrals is I know Rob and I know our lender, and last thing they want to do is to get me sideways on something, which is pretty hard to do. But it's always good to come to somebody with a referral. You mentioned having really some new seepage and leakage coverage earlier, which fires me up.
Yeah. So with seepage and leakage, that's going to be an endorsement on some policies. There's many different policy types. You have what's called an HOA, which is a very basic policy, and an HOA plus, which adds a little bit more beef, a little bit more meat to the policy.
Now, the HOA isn't like the community HOA, right?
No, it's definitely it's not the association.
Okay.
No, it is just a very basic policy form. Then you have your standard HO3 forms, which are your general policy form, and then we endorse that. And when we endorse it, what is an endorsement? I know we talked about this earlier. So an endorsement would be something that we add on to the policy, like foundation coverage.
Like an extra.
A
topping. Ice cream.
That's exactly right. Let's add some sprinkles on. Yeah, exactly. If you can think of it like that, you have this, you have a bowl of ice cream, and now we want to get some more toppings on it.
Right.
So we want to add, replacement cost of personal property. That's a big one. Here recently, reviewing a couple deck pages from some people who had gotten quotes from from across the country.
Yeah.
It was not replacement cost, but actual cash value.
That's a pretty big difference.
That's a very big difference.
But easy when you're scanning to miss that, right?
Super easy if you don't know what you're looking for. So the policies that I personally write, make sure that we have replacement costs on your personal property and not appreciated value.
Yeah.
If
I ever have a claim, and I think we may soon, but when we have a claim, I want to be dancing in the street a little bit.
Yeah.
Because the insurance is so darn good.
That's right.
It's okay.
Yeah. And you're pretty well protected.
Yeah. I figured I would be.
We better be.
You are. I promise. So when you talk endorsements, we have that big pot of ice cream here and a big bowl of it, and we're adding chocolate syrup. So maybe that's replacement cost on your roof. That's another thing is, so a lot of carriers, your roof aid, something that people don't think about is, a lot of companies now on a regular standard asphalt shingle roof, what you see on a lot of tract homes, your master plan communities, they'll only take them up to 15 years because that's about the lifespan.
That's the life cycle. So I always thought everybody had to have that kind of thing because the insurance company says, well, it's wearing out in 5 years, so we'll give you
Right. So
5 years worth of coverage.
and sometimes that does happen. We'll see carriers where at that 15-year mark and that policy renews, people who don't read the renewal policy showing that the roof has gone from replacement cost to actual cash value.
Ooh, snap on the renewal. That's kind of tricky.
So how many times do you think that renewal goes, oh yeah, here's my insurance renewal. Oh, there's the premium. Okay,
Let's do
cool.
it. Yeah.
And we're looking at the premium. We're not looking at what may have been taken away from us.
No, in this fast moving world, it's hard to keep up with all that kind of stuff.
It is. So
Yeah.
that's why it's important to call your agent and say, hey, I got my renewal. What's changed?
Your agent's not obligated to tell you what's changed?
Well, your agent is there as a resource
I know
for
you would.
Right. Your agent is there as a resource. But yeah, that's a conversation that should be had with, your roof is approaching this age.
Well, I imagine it's an automated send out, right? The
Right.
renewal, and they probably have
Right.
some templated items.
Right. And then now, granted, that's not every single carrier can
Yeah.
do that. If you're if you incepted the policy and you have a 13-year-old roof, you go 2 years past that into your renewal, a lot of those carriers will keep it with replacement cost.
Oh, that's good.
Yes. But again, at renewal, you
Yeah.
want to make sure you read that declaration page and just make sure.
That's fascinating. Okay, so lesson one from Rob is make sure you have replacement costs, not what's the other one called?
Actual cash value.
Not actual cash value cost on your insurance. It probably costs a little more money though, right?
For replacement costs, for ACV, yeah. But
Yeah.
that's pretty much the norm. That's how we write
A
our
lot more money or a little bit more money?
It would be it's just every case is different.
Yeah.
Well, it's really hard to put a number
Yeah.
on that.
No number on it.
No
But-
number.
But go ahead and get replacement costs because otherwise, you're going to come out of pocket more than you probably think.
But what you mentioned earlier with seepage and leakage is now a lot of our carriers are offering what's called service line coverage, and a lot of people don't realize that this endorsement is now becoming available on some pretty big name carriers.
Nice.
And what that does is that covers all the service lines that service the home, whether it be electrical running underground, the water main after the meter.
Between the street and the house.
Yeah, that's on you.
Yeah.
That breaks.
Yeah. But we could get insurance for that now.
You can.
That's so exciting.
It really is. We had a service line break at a house just down the street from us a couple weeks ago. I talked to the plumber, just asking what a general repair. He said anywhere from $900 to several $1,000s, depending on where the leak is. And with, these endorsements, that particular endorsement typically carries a $500 deductible. So Paul, let me ask you, $500 or several $1,000s, what's your pick?
Gosh, that's a toughie. Yeah, I'm probably gonna go with the 500 though. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and you make sure you have that covered, and a lot of them will cover for tree roots. We see that a lot in these.
Let's talk about my biggie. What about in slab drain lines with homes that are like originally from the 70s to 80s?
So.
Or 60s.
And the tree roots. I'm excited about the
Tree
tree
roots
roots
are-
and
that's
that main
how cool.
line between the house and the street.
Those trees get really thirsty.
That cast iron plumbing.
Yeah, I know. That's my.
I know.
Well, I get excited.
I do.
Yeah.
What about stucco? Can we insure stucco?
Sure.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, we can.
Because stucco could be a real mess in Austin.
Stucco can be a real mess in Austin.
Yeah.
But luckily we just rate the home for stucco and they rate it accordingly. And if we do get a hailstorm and you get softballs through the side of your stucco, coverage would extend.
With replacement costs.
With replacement
Probably
costs.
need to make sure that happens.
Yes.
Yeah. Learning a lot here, Rob. This is
Good.
great.
I'm
Yeah.
glad. I'm happy to help you. Educating you is it's important to know your insurance.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't look at it every day, and we've had many conversations. You can't make insurance sexy, but we can have fun with it. So
Yeah. I don't care until I have a claim.
that's right.
Right.
And that local agent will help you get through that
Yeah.
claim. So
Yeah. Well, we know who my local agent is.
you,
So talk to me. A lot of people will want to go like to Farmers or Geico or companies like this.
Sure.
Talk to me about the difference between those guys and having an insurance broker, which is what you are, right?
Yes. Insurance broker could be a name for it, but so I'm what's called an independent agent.
Okay.
And then you have some of your other big names, and those guys are called captives. So they really only sell one product and would be
Like Farmers.
like a Farmers would sell Farmers, but they have access to some of the same markets that we do. What makes us different is we have access to over 65 markets.
Wow.
That's a lot.
Wow.
And we have something for everyone. So if you have that first time home buyer, credit is a little bit on the fence, but we really want to get them to this home.
Yeah.
We're going to do everything we can. We've got a great loan team. We have carriers that won't run credit.
Really?
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah. And it's amazing that, a fun word for it would be insurance score, but it goes into the rating of the policy.
Right.
Sadly. The theory behind being you're not going to do the home maintenance, you're going to use your insurance policy as a maintenance plan and not when you need it, versus doing your general repairs, your maintenance.
Right. You need to take care of your own home. Insurance is for that big moment.
Right. So, I always tell my insurance, after a big storm, walk the outside of your property, make sure you don't have any lifted shingles, a tree didn't fall inside the house that you didn't hear, anything like that. Your fence didn't blow over.
Yeah.
So it's always important to do that stuff. Walk around and just make sure your property's in good shape.
So taking it back to the ice cream analogy, you have 60, how many flavors?
About 65 flavors.
You have 65 flavors and different carriers
that
you can shop from. That must take you like a week to go through that for just for me and my clients.
Not necessarily, no. Typically, once we talk to the client, we get a feel of what they're looking for. We have an idea of where to take it to, but what we do is we're leading the forefront in technology. We're doing some pretty amazing things at Greenway. We have a new quoting system to where I'm able to get these quotes in, loaded in all the information, characteristics about the home. I can get quotes in about 7 minutes.
Wow. From all 64, was it 64?
Yeah.
64 flavors?
So there'll be about 24 flavors at this point because we kind of know we're going to narrow it out.
Because I'm going to be saying, hey, I need drain line and I need this and that. And so that probably filters out.
Yeah. So I know what makes you tick and what's important to your buyers.
Yeah.
So again, I know what my carriers are offering and where to take your clients to get them the best possible insurance.
So when you provide a quote to somebody or a set of quotes or a menu of quotes.
Right. I'll send 3.
You're able to say, hey, here are the best 3 for what you're looking for.
Right. So I'll send 3 with my top pick, my secondary, and my third.
And you put them in order.
Yeah.
So my guys know to pick at the top. That's
of
great.
Course.
Yeah.
Right. But again, everyone's going to be different. Maybe
nobody wants to, I don't mean any offense, but nobody wants to read the insurance stuff, Well,
good for you. Lucky for you, I will educate before I sell. So I want to make sure that everyone's on the same page before we sign the contract for the policy.
Yeah. Well, I know everybody we've sent you has been really happy.
Great. Yeah.
What else do we have here that, how do you make sure you have enough coverage? This is I get this question from people a lot of times, and I think I know the answer, but you have land value, and of course land can't be demolished, right? And people are always like, but the contract says this amount and they want all that insurance. How do you suss that out?
So again, to your point, I'm insuring the house and not the land. That land is always going to be there. God forbid we have a fire, we're going to have land restoration. They'll pull it. If it's going to be just an empty lot, they'll pull everything out and get it ready for it to be rebuilt on with the restoration.
Is it just a price per foot or like?
It all depends on the home. I mean, so a lot of these homes that we're seeing, like the Northwest Hills homes, these homes are built in the 60s. They've had full rehabs. And we've gone from linoleum countertops to quartz or granite or level 4, whatever it may be.
All the above, whatever
all the above.
stuff you want.
Right. So we go by cost per square foot to rebuild. So if you send me a home that's $700,000 to rebuild and it's sitting on $200,000 on $300,000 on land, I'm going to insure that house at about $200 a square foot because of all the custom 175.
Is there a cap on that? Like, do you run out of per foot?
Yeah. So a lot of our carriers will go through what's called the costimator, and granted, we go by the pictures that are online through Zillow or whatever it may be. We can see and we use our judgment to kind of evaluate what we think is cost per square foot.
Right.
So that's how we do it. It would be
nice. Yeah. With the costimator.
With the costimator.
It's like a whole new word. I really like
you could use that. We use a costimator. And it gives me an accurate cost of what it would be to rebuild that home.
Yeah.
So if you've gone through a remodel, you need to visit with your insurance agent again to talk about whether you have enough coverage. If you've done an addition, if you've done any major improvements, you really want to make sure you've got coverage.
Yes.
It's going to cover those improvements.
Exactly. And if you add squares to the home square footage, yes, add it, because we don't want it to subtract from the rebuild cost.
Right. The insurance needs to match the house.
Exactly. Right. So as we're talking about remodeling homes, one thing to think about when purchasing a remodeled home is they've done everything for aesthetics in the house. They put the new countertops, they put these beautiful wood floors, new windows, new everything.
Yeah, and sometimes it's lipstick on a pig.
Yeah, you don't know what's lurking behind those walls. You could have galvanized plumbing that we don't know about.
That's right.
So it's always very important to ask those questions from the flipper or from the builder or whatever it may be.
And get verification.
And get verification.
Yeah, trust, but let's verify.
Yes. What's in those walls? because we don't know.
We don't know unless we open it up, and nobody's going to let us do that.
No, we don't have to pop a whole wall, unfortunately.
If you've got a first-time home buyer and they've never had to purchase home insurance before, what 3 pieces of advice would you give them to get started?
Don't shop based on price. Make sure you have ample coverage, and make sure you have an agent that's going to literally go line by line to make sure that you understand every facet of your coverage, from what the home's insured for to your replacement costs, separate structure, or your personal property, your separate structures, which would be like a fence, a shed, the playscape, anything like that. What endorsements you have, what things to look for. So I get really excited when I have a first-time home buyer.
Do you?
Yeah, I do.
Nice.
I do. Because it's fun, because they're clueless. They have no idea what's going on. And it gives you an opportunity to build that rapport, gain their trust,
right.
and just and then you have a client for life.
That's wonderful.
So that's what's important. That's what's important to me, is making sure you understand.
Well, you like to do a lot of educating.
I do.
I think that's beautiful.
I thank you.
Yeah, it goes in a lot like we want to educate before we sell.
We do.
That's the right way to do things.
And it's so important. And then your deductibles. I mean, understanding that, understanding what you have, and if you get a quote with a 3% wind hail deductible, you're paying 3% of what the home was insured for. So if the home's $300,000, was that $9,000 if you had a claim?
It's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money come out of pocket. And we're seeing a lot of carriers here in Central Texas. Dallas is getting very hard to write because of all the hail,
tornadoes and stuff, right?
Tornadoes, you got hail.
God bless you guys in Dallas.
Yeah, that's getting to be a tough market.
Yeah, and I assume down at the coast also, are you seeing some insurance issues down there?
It's been thank goodness we didn't have a very active season this year, but coastal rates, you can expect about 3,000 with wind, and I have carriers that are writing with wind, so we don't have to go through TWIA or anything like that.
Oh, that's exciting. That really
Yes.
streamlines things.
Yes. One policy, your wind, the coverage on the dwelling itself in case we blow a water line, fire, whatever it may be, but it's all in one package. You're not dealing
That's
with
nice. That makes it simple.
Yes. And a lot of our carriers that we've partnered with that are our coastal carriers, during Hurricane Harvey, the response time was amazing. I mean, they were deployed on the ground, assisting our clients. And, as we talk about, we're drifting into Harvey, and something that some people don't consider and should consider is flood insurance.
Yeah, even when you're not flood rated. Right?
Even if you're not in a preferred zone, a lot of the preferred zones in Houston got moved to what would be an 8E zone.
Yeah.
So from an X zone. The good thing about flood is if you're in an X zone and it gets redrawn and you're carrying a flood policy, you still carry that preferred rate.
So is that an endorsement?
That's a whole separate policy.
Or is that a federal government flood policy that you
So
would get if you're out, like there's private, right?
There's private,
Yeah.
right? So you can get private, depending on your location, it can be a little less expensive.
Yeah.
But 9 out of 10 times you're going with it's through the NFIP, but like a lot of our carriers write flood as well.
Like if we wanted a flood policy, and you guys can't see it, but we're pretty high up here.
Right.
It'd be really hard for us to flood. Like our flood policy would be pretty cheap right here, right?
Yeah, it would be.
Pretty good.
Considering
Pretty good odds.
I would
when
say
got
you're pretty
a plane
good.
there.
You'd have pretty good drainage here. So just go straight down. But yeah, we could certainly look at something like that for you guys just for fun and see what it would come out to.
Yeah, I'd be curious just for giggles.
But it's always important. If you live by a creek, you live by a lake, you've seen the rainstorms here, it can happen. Nobody knew it was year 999 out of 1,000-year flood in Houston, but
well, it can happen in weird ways too, right?
Sure
like
can.
from your neighbor coming over, or from their water coming downhill or whatever.
It could.
Yeah, and a lot of different ways for water to get into a house.
Yeah.
So last month, or maybe it was the month before, we had Janithera. They bought a lot, basically a lot, and that was a curious situation. I got worried about them having liability on the lot. And I know that you guys connected and you wrote something, but like, what did you write and how'd you come up with how much to cover them for out there?
So it was based on the client's needs.
Yeah.
They were looking for a small liability policy so that if anyone does get on the property and get injured, that there's coverage extended to. We know that they're going to build soon.
Yeah.
So it was a good move on their part just to make sure that it is covered.
Sure.
Kids are kids and they'll ride their bikes and see an empty lot, climb a tree, whatever it may be. their coverage just in case anything
Do you need
happens.
to, do people with acreage, do they need to do the same thing?
Not necessarily. So if you're on acreage, depending on what you're doing with the land, if you have a couple head of cattle, a couple chickens and a goat, most of our carriers are okay. It happens. We just did one in LaGrange that was 10 acres, 10 head of cattle. And we got them with a great, not a farm policy, but a policy that attributed to the acreage.
So that opens up a whole nother pile of insurance opportunities.
Yes, it opens the exposure up quite drastically. Let's say that one of those, the big bull cow gets out.
Yeah, big old longhorn.
Big old longhorn, sadly. But it gets out and little Timmy's driving his brand new F-250 down the road and smacks that thing and lays out a bunch of stakes on the road. We want to make sure coverage extends.
Wow.
From that cow to little Timmy in his truck.
The things you must see. So before we wrap up, tell me this, like the three weirdest things you've had to have claims on, or the one, or whatever comes to mind.
I had one in Dallas where both water heaters were replaced and the contractor didn't seal the expansion tanks on them. So they blew, and it was a $1.2 million house, and we had a $300,000 water claim. I mean,
holy smokes!
Yeah,
over a water heater,
Two.
302.
Two water heaters blew at the same time.
Wow!
In the attic. So if you ever hot water heaters in the attic, please check it monthly. Just make sure it's safe.
We will.
Your water heaters are in the attic.
Yeah.
Oh, dear God. I'm just kidding.
They're right over the laundry room, so if they go, I guess we'll get some wet clothes.
Maybe.
At least, yeah, a little discount on the laundry machine running. No, we probably need to run up there and look at them.
Yeah, we check.
It's so easy to forget about all this stuff.
Home maintenance is so important, and it's checking your water heater once a month, walking your home after a storm, or even on a pretty day, and just making sure that your roof, your shingles are intact, and you don't have anything flipped up. You have a flip shingle, water will penetrate. It will get through.
That's incredible.
So
it'd be really cool if y'all had drones that would just come by your homeowners policy people's houses and check it out.
Some of our
One
carriers,
day, maybe,
some of our carriers are using drones to do home inspections now.
Really?
Yep.
That is slick.
They'll do them over one block, and that way it's done. And they'll move to the next house and zoom in on most of the homes over there. So that way it cuts down on the carrier expense for doing inspections.
That's great. How often are they sending these drones out?
Couldn't tell you.
No.
But with any new home purchase, you can expect a home inspection within 30 to 45 days.
Yeah.
It'd be the carrier coming out, and they'll be in a bright orange vest, and they're just walking your property just to make sure you're a good homeowner. Pride and ownership is what we're looking for.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. We're very proud.
I can tell.
Most of our clients are.
I love it. Yeah, a lot of, yes, and your clients have been very fun to work with. And
Well,
and they say, Paul's biggest concern, I said, don't worry, I got you covered. We got it covered.
Yeah.
So
They're very passionate. Well, thank you so much for coming
yeah,
out.
thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
What a delight. And,
Yeah, it's fun
you
to see
guys
you.
feel free to Google Rob King of Greenway Insurance, and he's well equipped to take care of you.
Yeah, happy to help.